Good luck.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Game Addicts podcast, the show where we talk about the modern and retro video games that we play and collect. I am your host Brando, and this is the podcast player to Mike.
Oh, hello.
How's it going, Mike?
It's going. How are you doing?
It's going pretty good. Today we are going to be doing a retrospective episode, something like we've done before with the PlayStation. We kind of did it with the PSP, but I didn't name it a retrospective. I hadn't come up with the classification. We just kind of... technically, that episode is a retrospective.
Right.
But really, I just called it like Game Addicts Portable or something like that.
Eh.
I mean, it's a cool name. I think it's pretty cool. That's why I haven't gone back and retroactively changed it to retrospective.
I see what you did.
But going forward, I want to do this for like all the systems that I played growing up.
Right.
And also systems that I collect for. And to do it, we want to talk about the system. We want to talk about the games, all the different stuff that we have. And for some of the systems, I have almost everything. For other systems, I don't. But
Right.
and it is what it is when you want to talk about it. Today, we're talking about the Super Nintendo, and something that I can talk at like ad nauseum about. It was my first gaming console I ever owned.
Really?
Yes, not the first one that I played, but the first one I actually owned myself, and which is why it's like, could I do a retrospective on the original NES? Yes, because I played enough of it, and I've throughout the years as a kid, and later on when I've collected, that I could form opinions and put out information about the NES. I know a lot about it, and I probably do have like 10 favorite games that I could list out, but I feel like it's more important to do the Super Nintendo first. And really, it's one of my big three. And what I mean by that is like the systems that meant something to me.
Right.
It's this, PS1, and PS2. And then after that, it starts diversing. It's like a little here, a little there, a little here.
Right.
But as far as because when we were kids, we didn't have the luxury of owning every system or getting this and that. So I mean, I got lucky enough that I got this first, which is my original model, the original model of Super Nintendo. I'll lift it up for the camera if you're watching on YouTube, and it's even yellowed on the bottom. It's got that old. The plastic for the shell was made of a plastic that was the chemical compound is fire retardant, which is when exposed to ultraviolet light, can cause it to change color and become more brittle. In fact, eventually this system entirely is going to just crumble apart. If you just touch it, it's going to crack and fall apart. Over time, over years and years and years. But the yellowing is a part of it. And as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, and I'll just describe it, on mine, just the bottom shell is yellowed, but then the top of it is fine, but then there's like plastic, like the front controller ports don't yellow typically, and then the very top of the cartridge input doesn't yellow, and then the back where your AV inputs are don't.
And you're snapping on the bottom here.
Yeah, and then the extension port, which was never officially used.
Right.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. But for me, as I said, I got this first, and then my grandma bought me a Sega Genesis Model 2.
That's my second. I had an NES.
Did you have an NES first?
I had an original NES.
See, when I was growing up, what was the first game console you ever played? Can you remember?
NES.
It was NES?
It was Mario. Mario was the first game I ever played.
The very first game that I ever remember playing, my earliest gaming memory, is Smurfs on ColecoVision.
Wow.
Now, that doesn't mean that the NES wasn't out. It just means that the family that I was visiting couldn't afford an NES, and they had this old ColecoVision. And so...
I'm surprised they had a ColecoVision.
I mean, what can I say? Well, those were leftovers from before the video game crash, where you have the Atari 2600, the Intellivision, the ColecoVision, and stuff like that. Going to the NES, I remember playing that a lot at my cousin, Scott and Todd's, and also at other kind of family members had it, and some friends had one. So I would play it there, Mario, and I have a very vivid memory that it's probably better suited for that episode, but I'll just say I'm trying to remember the name of the game. I thought about it at work today. It's made by Rare, and it's like the little RC car game.
Oh,
what's that game called? You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's because the camera's way up here, and you're on the track, and it's like beep beep, and you just like.
Yeah, they had arcades. They had arcade games of that.
What the hell's that game called?
Oh, I don't know. It's an RC Pro-Am.
Yeah, RC Pro-Am.
Yeah.
RC Pro-Am 1. So I spent the night at their house, and I was really young, super young.
That's a fun game.
And I cried and bawled for what felt like hours. It was probably only like 20 minutes. But I remember like I like pissed myself. And my aunt gave me a bath. And then she told me to go in there and see Scott and Todd. And they were playing Nintendo. And they let me play RC Pro-Am. I sucked. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I mean, but then for Super Nintendo, I don't even remember if I'd played one or seen one like in the store, like a demo unit or something. But I ended up the system. This one came out in '91. I looked it up.
I got the number of games.
Let's see. Release date in North America, August 23rd, 1991. And I didn't get one then because
I didn't either. I played mine at the first time playing the Super Nintendo at the Boys and Girls Club.
The only way that I can accurately depict when I got that is because of my second game, not the first. The packing game was Super Mario World.
Yeah.
But my second game was Home Alone 2. Back in the day, I was really into like tie-ins and if they were a movie or cartoon or anything like that, TV show. If it was a tie-in to something else I knew, I played it.
Right.
It was way before like later on where it was like I got more into like the story aspect of stuff, which is funny because some of the games I chose are games that I played later, not originally on the system, but did later. But those games have heavily passed. Yeah. my movie shill tie-in games that I grew up with. And Home Alone 2 came out on the Super Nintendo in October of 1992. So either I got one that year or I got one the year after that. So it's either 92 or 93 is when I got it, because then my third game I got for Christmas.
And?
All right, so I told Santa
yeah.
that I wanted, and I quote, because this is how I said it, and I knew I met. Have you ever said something wrong and then you go to leave and go, oh, I messed it up. I told him wrong. He's not going to know what I'm talking about. Damn it.
Yep.
I wanted a Super Nintendo Street Fighter 2.
Super Street Fighter 2.
No, actually what I wanted was when I was a little kid, I grew up in a town of about 600 people, and there were two bars right next to each other. Right next door. Like, literally, you could get kicked out of one bar and go in the other one. Some people did exactly that. And my grandma, she bartended at one bar during, like, the morning and day when it was pretty chill. And then around, like, the late afternoon is when she would get relieved. It's kind of when they would start kicking up a little bit.
Right.
Well, typically when my parents would go out, she would watch me. And that's why they bought the Genesis eventually.
Right.
Is so that way when I would spend weekends out there, or if I spent the night, I had something to play. But some days I would just be there in the bar with my parents while they drank. Because no one else could watch me because everyone else was at the bar. Everyone that could watch me was there. There's a town of 600 people. Where are you going on Friday or Saturday night? What are you doing? Let's go uptown.
Yeah.
Literally, and that was it. So they had like a run like of like those poker machines or Joker poker or like little slots or whatever where you see like the girls on like the bathing suits or something, you know, stuff like that. And throughout the years, they would get random arcade games. Like there was there was a racing game. It was a Sega arcade game. I looked forever to find this game, and I think it was eventually released on the Saturn, but only in Japan. And I can't. And right now, I couldn't tell you the name of it. It was like a first-person driving game, and Sonic was like one of those little dice on the mirror type thing.
What?
Yeah, and you drove and They had Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition there, or Champion Edition.
Right.
And that one had the 4 boss characters as playable characters, and I always picked Vega. Bouncing around, hopping around as Vega, kicked ass as Vega. So that's Street Fighter 2. I'm like, I want this game. Is this game out for like Super Nintendo? So I looked in like a Toys R Us holiday thing.
Right.
Saw Street Fighter 2.
Back whenever those were where you found your game.
Where you found anything.
Yeah.
I mean, this is before the internet.
That's where I found FF7.
Yeah, was it?
And I didn't know nothing about it. And that's where I found it from.
But that's where I told Santa I wanted it. Christmas Day, going through my presents, and no Street Fighter. So I was a little disappointed. I still got a lot of cool stuff, and my dad's like, "Is that all your stuff?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Santa didn't bring you that game?" I said, "No. I guess I must have told him wrong." And then he goes, "Look over there by your games." And I have my games stacked up on the TV. The TV was a furniture piece. It was one of those big TVs on the floor. He unboxed the game, put the game underneath my stack of games, since I only had 2. So there were 3 games sitting there.
And you're like,
and then it was Street Fighter 2. And it was the original one, so it didn't have Vega as a playable character. Because I didn't know that the Super Nintendo version of the Champion Edition was Turbo.
Right.
Where those were available. But that's where I fell in love with Ryu, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But then, of course, you kind of go on. I don't know about you, but for me, like, I didn't originally own a lot of games for the Super Nintendo. Because when I did get the Genesis, that was both a positive and a negative. Because now I had to choose what system do I want to get a game for. And
I think I own. Sitting here looking right now, I at least own almost half of what I originally owned. Seriously.
See, for me, I had to pick, and so my game numbers were limited. But almost every kid in town had a Super Nintendo.
Trade.
Buddy, we had a trade ring going on.
Yeah.
I remember vividly. Silent Rob was in that trade ring.
Yes. I believe that.
So was my buddy Preston and my buddy Jason, and then the Huffbauers, which my mom babysat for a while. So they would bring over. That's where I played Zelda for the first time. They brought it over and like blew my freaking mind.
Yeah.
The first time I played Mario Kart was with them. Then throughout the others, I mean, you just slowly. Oh, this guy got this game. Oh, this person got this game. Now Preston was so lucky. His dad had a really good job, and he got almost every game he wanted.
Right.
So he was the cat to trade with.
Right. Yeah.
He had a lot of games. I just remember him getting like Super Mario RPG.
Oh man.
And that was the first RPG I ever played. That one?
Yeah, me too.
Because when you look at I wasn't into the Final Fantasies. I wasn't into anything else like that because I would just look at the title and go, I don't know what that is.
I lied to you. The first game I ever played for Nintendo was Dungeons and Dragons.
Interesting.
I just thought about a girl that used to watch me. She had it, and she'd play it a lot.
Now, for the Super Nintendo, of course, all the games are on cartridges, right?
Right.
And they're actually region locked.
These?
Yes. Now, how they're region locked is there is no actual programming.
The bars.
It's just these bars, and inside here, if you look inside your little cartridge, there's these little, little pegs in there, and if you just break those off, you can now play Japanese games on this damn thing.
Right.
European games run at a different clock speed, so you wouldn't be able to play those right.
Right.
But for Japanese games, all you need to do is take those out, and you're good to go. As well as the Junior, the SNES Junior, the other model, which we'll talk about in a minute. Those also have that same little pegs in there. All you got to do is get in there with a pair of pliers and get those out. But see, this was the second Nintendo console. And so going to, like, Sega was still on cartridges with their second console, and then Nintendo was still on cartridges with theirs. The other competitor to this was the TurboGrafx 16, which was not really big in America, never really got big.
Right.
But it was called the PC Engine in Japan, and those used the Hue cards.
Right.
Which the Master System, some of those had Hue cards, but the Hue cards were, man. Have you ever seen those in the wild?
I have not seen. I have seen one. Our replay had one.
They're just so weird.
They're very awkward.
Their case was actually a CD case, which had a custom holder, like on the holder piece.
Right.
It had a little clip, and you just slid it right in. But the games themselves were, the cartridges have their little PCB board in there.
Yeah.
And basically they are a ROM. And eventually over time there would be extra, basically the Super Nintendo would be able to do more with different chipsets. And they started that with Star Fox when they invented the DFX chip.
Huh.
And
Well, you look at that. With the FX chip. It says right on the front.
FX, yeah. Doom also, I think, has like an FX chip. There was also an FX2 chip, and there was another chip that they invented, but I can't remember what the hell it was called. But I want to say Mario RPG uses it, but I don't think it's on the cover of the game.
I don't know. Let's find out.
No, not that one. Mario RPG.
No, wrong one. Yeah.
I don't think it says anything.
It doesn't.
But the Star Fox and Mario RPG are some games that have trouble being emulated on the emulation systems. Like the Retron 5 will do it just fine, but if you have anything below that, you're definitely going to want to just check. Do your homework. Some do. Some will play those games just fine, and others won't.
Does it say on the...
I didn't think it did. But as I said with the whole game trading thing, I got to play so many different games that way. And also game renting. I rented a lot of games. But then, okay, so we haven't talked about the controller yet. And this controller is one of my favorite controllers of all time.
Oh, yeah. Agreed.
So comfortable. It is a basic, simple upgrade to the NES controller.
Yeah.
It adds it adds 4 more buttons to make it 6.
Yep.
Because the original was just 2, and they added an X and a Y, which, if you notice, the same basic button layout has been the same for years, barring a couple systems. Like the Wii was different, the N64, the Cube. Yeah, that layout was different, but it's kind of. It's
similar, but they had the odd shaped.
But then you get to
buttons.
The 3DS or the DS 3DS, and then to the Wii U, and then of course now the Switch. It's the same ones, but the one thing that this controller did first before anybody else. Shoulder buttons, L and R.
Yep.
And Nintendo always innovating, because the NES was the first one to have an actual D-pad.
Yep. All
the other game systems before that, you typically played like this, and you had either a joystick or like the ColecoVision was different. It was like a number pad.
Yeah.
And
it was odd.
Yeah, it's weird.
It was really odd.
But the controller is so freaking comfortable. Like I can play with this controller all night. I've never had cramps with this controller. The original NES controller, with being blocky, can be a little uncomfortable to hold.
Right.
But the SNES controller, I feel like, is probably the best one. Now, it is really weird because, like on the Retron, you can use this.
Yes.
For every game system. You can play the Genesis games on here, and it's weird.
I do.
It's weird.
Well, I did. So, yeah, but yeah.
It is weird. I tried it, and I'm like, I don't like it.
The good thing with the Retron 5, though, is that you can program it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Mm-hmm. Zombies Ate My Neighbors, I programmed the controller to be exactly the way it is on the Super Nintendo.
There you go.
The way that I originally played it.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm right at home.
Yeah, pretty similar. Man, what else is next? No, not yet. Not yet. They released. We're getting there. There's one thing before that I don't have, and that's the Super Scope.
Did I take? Oh no, I didn't.
I have the Super Scope, or I don't have the Super Scope because really there's only a few games it even works for.
Right.
And of course, the Super Scope was the answer, or the Super Nintendo version of like the Zapper.
Yeah.
But it was like a bazooka.
Mm-hmm.
And you had like the Super Scope 6, I think Yoshi's Cookie. Only ones at the top of my head.
Yeah.
I Super Scope for me, I've seen a couple in the wild, and I've never felt like it was worth getting one.
Yeah, me neither.
You know,
I don't think it was as good as a Zapper.
No, not at all. And now you said you had the total number of games
from the site that I was at. Yes, it has 781.
I don't have that number right in front of me, but what I was going to say.
I thought you were looking, and I was like, my number says 781.
I'm coming down here.
I think that's American release too. That's not Japanese. That's American release. 781.
As I had somewhere.
Let's look.
Not technical. Dang it. I had the number of total systems sold.
Oh.
I can't remember where I put it. Where is it? Oh, yeah. They don't call these cartridges. Did you have you noticed that?
Huh.
Let's see if it says on the back here. So they call this the control deck.
Okay, so I'm wrong. It's 721. Released in North America.
So they call the system the control deck, and they call these
the control module.
Game Pack.
Game Pack.
PAK.
Huh.
Yeah. Oh, you're so cool, Nintendo.
Good for you, Nintendo.
Dang it.
Let's see if...
Where the heck did I even put you? Legacy. Maybe you're here. Yes, here we are. Total SNES sales worldwide were 49.10 million.
Damn. I must have wrote this down wrong because the same site I went back to. It said 21.
You're an idiot.
I am an idiot.
With 23.35 million of those sold in the Americas and 17.17 sold in Japan. It did not quite repeat the success of the NES.
No.
Which was at 61.91 million.
Well, I mean, the NES saved console gaming.
It did.
The plain and simple. Without it, we may not have any of this. Actually, we probably wouldn't.
I'm going to just Google search. How many SNES games are there?
That's what I did.
I'm just... Since you came up with two different answers, I'm going to...
No, it's just because I can't read.
You cannot read. For sale, all 721 SNES games released in North America. Oh, this is on eBay.
You can buy all of them?
This was from December 10th, 2012.
Is that one guy that had collected a full set of each system? Is that one of his?
No, he hasn't. Are you talking about John Hancock?
I don't know if it's him or...
John Hancock hasn't sold. What the fuck is this shit? Okay. So all these games come with their original boxes. 85% with the instruction manual. What? All for the low price of the buy it now price of $24,999. 25 grand. And then they have spitting up blood. Why are you spitting up blood? I was sword swallowing and someone made me laugh. Seriously? No, I farted. That's exactly what's on this website.
That's odd.
It is odd. But, yeah, I think that is North America.
Yeah.
Because then...
I had to have wrote it down wrong. Like usual. I was trying to get back into Facebook while I was looking at this.
What were you doing that for?
Dual screening.
Anyway. Another good peripheral that they've released, and I showed it on the camera when I was showing the game pack, is the Super Game Boy. This is a fully functional Game Boy that is playable on the system. You just plug it in, and then you plug your Game Boy game in, and it boots up the Super Game Boy. Yeah. And then they have cool things where you can change your background. You can even draw on the background. You can customize your button layout. Right. You can customize colors, the colors of the screen, because some games have a built-in color theme that this will recognize.
Right.
This only works for Game Boy only, no Game Boy Color.
Right.
Now, if they're one of those systems or one of those games that
you can see in the camera, Zuki trying to get my attention. Daddy, what are you doing in the middle of the room?
If they're one of the games that will work, that have a special color palette for the Game Boy Color,
right,
they'll still work for here just fine. But this was a really cool, nifty thing. I remember this is how Rob played Pokemon. Rob didn't have a Game Boy for the longest time. And he had a Super Game Boy, and then a friend of his had introduced him to Pokemon, so he got Pokemon for it. And I got a funny story for Rob. He spent forever lobbying to get a Super Nintendo. Pretty sure the N64 was almost out, if not coming out, by the time he got one. And he went to such lengths as to start singing songs and replacing certain words with Super Nintendo. To send the message that he wanted a Super Nintendo.
What? You're kidding.
No. In fact, I don't know how many he did, but I do know one for sure. And it was the Alan Jackson song. If I had the money, I tell you what I'd do. Go downtown, buy a Super Nintendo or two. Crazy about a Super Nintendo. Crazy about a Super Nintendo.
Wow.
That is a true story. In Japan, they released the Super Game Boy 2. And the case looks different. It's a little like a see-through type thing. But the one big difference is it has a link cable set up, because this was released before Pokemon craze.
Right.
When Pokemon came out, the link up thing became much more of a need.
Right.
To trade and to battle. And this let you link up with another Super Nintendo Game Boy, or that link up did, or just somebody else had a Game Boy.
Right.
That way you could link up and trade. You can find those online, and you can actually buy those and play those in your system. And also, the Game Boy is fully functional with Japanese Game Boy games.
Huh.
Completely backward or completely cross, compatible. There is no region lock for those at all. So if you get a Japanese Super Game Boy 2, take the little pegs out of your Super Nintendo, you can plug that in and plug American games into it, and it'll work just fine.
Yeah.
Unless I'm completely wrong.
Maybe.
More recently, as in just a few years ago, other modules have been created for this.
Right.
And I have one right here. This is the Super Retro Advance Adapter. Now, what this does is that this sets into your Super Nintendo, and it has an AV out over here. So it doesn't use the AV out on the Super Nintendo. It uses the power. And it uses the AV out, and it plays Game Boy Advance games on your TV, and you can use the Super Nintendo controller.
Huh.
Now, as I said, it doesn't do the output of the Super Nintendo at all. It just uses the power and then the controller. But this only plays Game Boy Advance games. It will not play Game Boy Color or Game Boy games. And of course, this also has the
extension,
the extender adapter. And they make one for Sega Genesis.
Yes.
So you can play Sega Genesis on your Super Nintendo, and they make one for NES. If they make any others now, I don't know, because I haven't looked them up. I got this on a Cyber Monday deal a couple years ago, before I got my Game Boy player for the GameCube.
Right.
This is the longest time I couldn't track one down.
They're hard to track down.
And then when I found them, I found two of them.
That's how it works.
For $50. How you doing, Kitty?
It is. he wants to bug us. He hasn't bugged us in any of the podcasts until now.
Oh no, he came up on the Switch episode. He didn't get up. He didn't get that high. He didn't come and check us out. But he did come and bug us a little bit and talk to us. Now, the original model of Super Nintendo, it is compatible with S-Video. So if you want a cleaner picture than just regular AV, it'll do that. And the second model that got released in 1998, I think, 98 or 97. This was the model that came out after the N64 came out. This is like the what you call it, budget model.
Budget model.
Like $99 one. You know, it's like this system's life is over. Let's put out a slim model, and then let's go ahead and put this out because there's a whole library of games out for it now.
Right.
And, it's like every other system does nowadays.
We're moving on.
They first did it with the NES top loader.
Right.
And this one is available for only has AV out. It does not do S-Video, but it is a little bit more reliable. It's made with better plastic, so it shouldn't yellow. And mine original console is finicky. Like I don't know if I really need to clean it or whatnot. But since I bought this one, I use this one exclusively because I can only have 4 S-Video consoles on my system because my switcher only goes up to 4 consoles, and I have the PS2, N64, GameCube, and Dreamcast S-Video, and then I have the Xbox with the component, and then the NES and Genesis, and this were AV because those plug into the side of my TV, and the plug into the side of the TV is just AV. There is no S-Video component with that. Now
I just bought a AV switcher, the 8 one.
And now see, I bought 2 switchers, and they both have S-Video on them. Yours might also have it, but maybe not. It all just depends. I bought them at Goodwill for $3 a piece.
Oh, you definitely got a better deal than I did.
One of them will not recognize the S-Video port at all. So, like, I have one that is like a better quality, or it seems to have a better click on the signal, but it won't pick up S-Video. So I have that for one of my other ones, and I have to fight with the GameCube button that I have assigned for the GameCube button. It does not want. In fact, I'm thinking about just switching that for the Dreamcast one because I use that one like the least. Like I'll plug into the GameCube one and I'll just lose picture, and I go up there and I have to click them again. It sucks. I need a better one, but it's just a matter of funds and money.
Right.
They were going to design a CD add-on that was going to utilize the
extension or
the extension port, and they were partnering with Sony to come up with that.
Yeah.
And that was the original designs for the PlayStation. And the thing with Sony is that they were going to make the add-on, but they were also going to be able to retain rights to make a Sony combined system.
Right.
Where it was going to be like, Nintendo, they would make the add-on for Nintendo, and then they could also make their own separate Sony-branded PlayStation, which was like the disc part, and then the cartridges would also go in. That never happened.
Yeah.
And Sony got quite embarrassed about this because Sony had announced at one of the E3s, or it was some sort of convention, I assume it was E3. Hey, we're partnering with Nintendo to make this, the PlayStation. Check it out. The very first concept of it that they created. The controller looked like this. It was the exact same controller because they were partnering with Nintendo.
Right.
The next day, Nintendo came out and said they were partnering with Philips to make a CD add-on.
Oh, Nintendo.
Because they struck a deal. They struck a deal with Philips to do it cheaper. Now, granted, they never made it. It never got done. There is a SNES PlayStation out there.
Yeah.
And it does work.
Really?
The cartridge port works.
The CD.
Since no games were ever really made for it, the CD, it'll play CDs I think, if they've ever got that fixed on it. But like the tray will come out, but nothing ever really gets outputted. But yeah, they've been taking that to like conventions and stuff like that for you to be able to see it and be able to play Super Nintendo games on it.
It'd be neat.
And some guy got it at like a auction for a office. It was like an office space auction in Singapore, like Hong Kong. And it was some offices that people worked for, either for Sony or Nintendo, had it in there, and they were just clearing shit out. And then this dude bought it with a whole box of other games and stuff, cheap, super cheap. And then he just had it in his attic for a long time, never really even looked at them. And then they went through it and went, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it is pretty wild. I know the Ben Heck show did a teardown of it where they let him take it apart and see what was inside of it. And really, it's just a tech demo system. So it's like not even what the PlayStation ended up becoming.
But it's still the only one of its kind.
I know. It's really cool to see.
To tear that apart, I'd be sitting there shaking like...
Oh, dude. It's really cool to see. Now, they didn't end up doing any sort of disc-based add-on at all. And luckily for them, like, the Sega CD didn't really do all that well.
Right.
So it didn't really harm them at all. The Super Nintendo is right... They were in a fierce competition with Sega. And Sega launched the Genesis back in 89, 88. And it was like the regular Nintendo was still out. So they were like, we're better than the Nintendo. Genesis does what Nintendo don't.
Yeah.
16 megabits of mega power, all that kind of blast processing, all this stuff they were saying. Then the Super Nintendo comes out, and actually the Genesis is a little bit more powerful than the Super Nintendo. However, the Super Nintendo has what I think are cleaner visuals and like light speed, lightning times, 20,000 million times better sound via the Sony sound chip that's in it. Yeah, that is like the sound on the Super Nintendo. I like the Genesis sound is all its own. It's its own little thing, and it's definitely like it's nostalgic.
It's rough,
but it is rough. And even when I was a kid, I didn't like it. But then all the games that you would buy throughout the life of the system, they all work on both systems. Again, both are basically region free if you just get rid of the tabs. And then you have like third party controllers for it that did like turbo and
the turbo.
Recently, I think our disc replay had the Super Advantage stick.
Yes,
that was made for it as well.
And they also had the wireless controllers.
The wireless controllers.
Yeah.
Which 8-Bit Do, which is a company that does Bluetooth controllers that will resemble an SNES controller, a NES controller, or whatever.
Yeah.
They make adapters for Super Nintendo where you can plug in a Bluetooth controller, either buy one of theirs, or you can plug in a PS4 controller to it.
Wow.
Weird, yes.
That would be awkward.
It is, but it works because that means they sell the controller and the receiver separately.
Right. Yep.
So like if you like
$50 for the controller.
Yeah, the controller's pretty expensive, but the receiver's only like $20.
$20, yeah.
So like if you bought the receiver and you have a PS4 controller, like I can play, all my games wirelessly from way back here instead of being tied to it, because this is something that is now archaic, is the controller cord.
Yeah.
Trust me, like my game room is set up to where I don't have that problem. But
mine
is
not.
No, and buddy, we have it so good now.
We do.
It's been 12 years since I've been tied to my console.
Yes.
I mean, other than...
See, the way that my living room was set up when I was a kid is that the TV was in the corner, and then we sat all the way on the other side.
Yeah.
Well, about the size of my living room now. This is the actual living room minus the dining room. That's how big my living room was as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to pull the Nintendo system out as far as it would go, and then have my controller and sit back as far as I could go, because we had a little 32-inch box TV. Back then, that was big.
Yeah, see, I just put I have my system on the floor, and we just sat right in front of the TV, like nose to screen. And I have a lot of memories of the Huff Powers coming over and us playing Street Fighter and Zelda and Mario and all those kind of games, sitting that close. And just a lot of cool times. Eventually, I did get to move the system to my bedroom, which was awesome. And, dude, I wish that I'd have been a little bit more advanced in my mentality and would have gotten more into story gaming, because I did game a lot. I mean, I still went outside and played outside a lot too when I was a kid. But like, that was what got me, like, later on, like that's what kept me glued to the television with, like, the story games. And that's something that came a little bit later for me. But there's a lot of them on this system. And
I got lucky. When we got the Super Nintendo, it only stayed in the living room for... Well, actually, I had to stay in the living room for a while. When I got the PlayStation, it never went into the living room. I had it in my own room when I got the PS1.
My bedroom had a couple different TVs. My very first TV was one of those little
That's what I had.
Dial TVs. And I was able to hook that up to it. And then I got a TV. I got an old TV from one of my dad's friends that was one of the big set pieces that sat on the floor.
Yeah.
You know, which, I mean, that was really cool at the time, but the picture sucked on it. It really sucked on it.
Even for that time?
Yes. Like, looking back, thinking about playing games on that, I would go back and play. Eventually, I got a little 13 Zenith, but the picture was so good. Like, it was a newer TV, so it looked a lot better than like the older ones. But do you want to go into games?
We can go into games.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll go with I'm going to start. I only really have ranked. I mean, I have some ranked.
Well, okay. Well, let's just say that I decided not to rank them.
I kind of did too. Only two matter to me. In rankings.
Same. And
only
so,
two
like,
matter. The
I'm
rest
gonna
are just awesome.
I'm gonna pull games out of my bag down here at random, and I know which ones are not to pull if I see myself pulling it.
Right. But just to say, I only have 7
of your 10.
7 of my 10. I have a list of 12. I have 2 honorable mentions, but
how could you only have 7 of your 12? You are slacking.
I am. A lot of it is the fact of, like, I've seen Donkey Kong.
You know.
But it's $20, and I'm just kind of like, eh.
You know, I'll be honest with you. I don't spend a lot of time collecting for Super Nintendo because it's getting so expensive.
It is getting pricey. It is getting pricey. Like Samurai Showdown, I've yet to see that in person anywhere here in town.
Samurai Showdown?
Yeah. Yeah. But anywho.
Yeah, I just purchased one of my big gets recently, and in fact, this past year, I bought a game that pissed Rob the hell off.
Oh, hello.
Hi, Joanna.
Bye, Joanna.
Bye, Joanna.
Now you're gonna hear my new puppy squeal.
It's better on the last game, Addicts. You could hear Wyatt scream from the kitchen. Yes. Oh yeah, it came through quite clear, but I didn't bring that game with me, but I guess I'll make it an honorable mention, and that was Demon's Crest.
Demon's Crest. Yeah.
I got Demon's Crest. It's like $100 game. Ridiculous. As of like 10 years ago, it was like $7. Now it's $100 because it didn't sell very well.
Collecting just went through the roof.
It has, and Nintendo, it retains value. Especially a lot of the big titles, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of mine are some big...
So, are you going to go first with one of yours, or
I'll go
was
first.
Donkey Kong your first one?
We'll do Donkey Kong as my first one, as I mentioned. It's Donkey Kong. I mean, what is there to say about Donkey Kong?
We'll see. All right. You know, I really like Donkey Kong Country, but when I got it, because I bought it this year, or maybe last year.
Last year.
I don't remember. I bought it, and man, I just don't like it as much as I used to.
I agree with that, but man, I remember playing the crap out of that.
Well, they were able to do such a good job with the graphics for the time. I thought it looked really cool. But it's just like the kind of platforming that it is, it's fun, but it's not my favorite.
It was like to me, it was like an old school but new Super Mario. Because think about how it played through. It was different, but it was the same. Because it was a side scroller.
Mm-hmm.
You still collected bananas, coins. You still had the barrel, all the jazz. It was same, but it was kind of same but different.
You collected the Kong instead of the Yoshi coins.
Yeah, and then
Get out of here, kitty.
one of them was each time you do like Rare or Donkey Kong or Donkey or Kong or whatever, you collected something.
Donkey or Kong?
Yeah.
Which one do I want to do first? What's this one?
There he is.
Final Fantasy 3 is I'm saying it first. As I said, I didn't really write them down in a big number. And number one, why am I saying it first? Because I've never beat it.
That's not your number one, is it?
No.
Okay.
No, just, go ahead. I'll take my 50 lashes. As I said, I didn't play RPGs on the damn system, other than Super Mario RPG. I played this later, and I just never beat it. I've beaten some other Final Fantasies on the system, but not 3. And I like it. I really think that Final Fantasy 3 shows what they can do storytelling-wise on that system.
Right.
They do such a good job of capturing mood, especially with the music. If you listen to the music of this game, just on music alone, you're gonna hear like stuff that you would hear in FF7. Like not like the same songs, but you go, you know what? I hear the mood, because 7 was done right after this.
Right.
Because while this is Final Fantasy 3, it's 6.
It's 6.
So Nobuo did these games back to back.
Right.
So when he was making music for 7, there might be a little bit of this in here. And actually, he said that this game is his favorite soundtrack that he's done out of all of them.
Wow.
He really felt like the series should have ended with this.
At 6.
At 6. He said he feels like while they've done good games since, this was the pinnacle of where he thought what the original intent of Final Fantasy was. He goes he just couldn't fathom, like, as a storytelling aspect, going any further. And while they did, he's like, he said, like, this is where everything just molded. The look of the game, the storytelling, the music, it all came together to tell this great story. And while I haven't beat it, I put a lot of hours into it. It's so much fun.
So my next one is Super Mario RPG. This game, I rented it. Mm-hmm. I never physically owned the game until I bought it for Retro Collection at $50.
Yeah.
And it's going up and up and up.
Tis.
This game, I don't even know what to say about this game. This game was unbelievable. For the time,
mm-hmm.
It was unbelievable. It just had a fantastic story. First time where, Bowser and Mario working together. It just, Square, obviously made by Square. It just, I don't know, it captured everything to me in that sense.
My next game is Super Mario RPG. I never owned this game either until I was retro collecting. I did play it at my buddy Preston's, and I did play it at the Huff Bowers. And I don't know who else might have owned it. Maybe Jason.
You had a much better copy than I did.
I did?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. My label's really nice. I'm very picky about that too, though.
I wasn't picky about Super Mario RPG because we both know that once that hits here, it's gone the next hour.
It is, and I bought mine here. I didn't pay $50 for it. It was marked at 50, and I didn't pay 50. I've gotten lucky with that. 2 of the games I've gotten here, I got where it was marked at one price at replay, and I got it for a different price.
No, I love that.
I got that. I got this for like 40. It was like 42 something, I think.
So my next one is one that I do not have Super Nintendo copy of. I have a Sega copy of, and I'm not bringing the Sega cartridge to a Super
Nintendo show.
to a Super Nintendo show. Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Love the game.
That is, I rank that as my number 3. I mean, really,
that game is so freaking awesome. I have a box for Super Nintendo, but like you, I went ahead and pulled the trigger and got the Genesis copy of it when I found it because it was only like $20 when I found it. And
Super Nintendo copy is
it's now gone up.
Is it in the 60s now?
No.
Or is it at least 50? Because the last time I looked, it was 40.
No, it's not that much. Let's look at it right here in Price Guide. Let's look at that.
Yeah, because you don't have an iPhone.
Zombies.
Wait, what?
iPhones don't have the
video. Yeah,
video price guide.
How you spell neighbors? I almost said how you spell neighbors. I'm like, I know how to spell neighbors. Loose cart, $34.
$34.
Really, that's where it's going at. Complete price, $72.
Ouchies.
Yeah.
I've seen it for around 40 and 50.
But
it just really depends on the place, because some places.
What are you doing to me, kitty?
He reached up and like touched my back. I was like,
I want you to pet him.
I'm not pet. I can't pet him from behind me.
But with that game, that me and my cousin used to go to my grandmother's, and at my grandmother's, there's not too much to do there, so she got a Super Nintendo. And she is a big Tetris player, so she'd always play Tetris. So she ended up buying games for us kids. Well, Zombies Ate My Neighbors was one of them. And me and my cousin would sit there. I can't even tell you how many times we went through trying to beat this game, and we never beat it. Still to this day, I have yet to see the final level in front of me. Not watching somebody else, but me getting that far. It's a blast.
I'm petting your kitty.
I know.
You won't leave me alone.
He's an attention whore.
Anyway, what's this game you're talking about?
Zombies.
Oh, it's just zombies. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you'd gone into another game.
No.
My bad.
It's your turn.
My turn now?
Yeah.
Looking here.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4. Turtles in Time. This game's freaking amazing. It's made by Konami. At one point, they were cool. At one point, Konami was badass and made some badass games, and this is one of them. This is a 4-player, because one thing we forgot to mention, that this does have multi-tap.
Yes.
If you have multi-tap, I believe you can get up to 8 players on like some sports games, but this has 4-player, and you can play all 4 players. On the screen at once, and it's a side scroller beat 'em up, and it's such a badass game because this is a port and sort of like don't want to use the word remake, but this is a port of the arcade, but this added levels. This added the techno drum level, where like it's like they do a lot of cartoon tie-ins with like some of the villains and stuff like that, where you fight like Baxter Stockman, you fight like that one android. Yeah. And then you fight Bebop and Rocksteady on one level, on like the pirate level. But then in the Techno Drum level, they added a mini boss stage where you fought Taka and Razor from Turtles 2, the movie.
Yeah.
Which I think came out around the time that this game did. Maybe there's a date.
I didn't see a date on it.
91 is when this game. No, that's not.
No, it's not. It says 91 to.
It says it on all of them.
Yep. Everyone else says model series from Nintendo. 91 Nintendo.
We'll look up when this game came out. Turtles in Time.
4. Oh, wait.
1991. It got released in North America August 92.
Okay.
Damn, that was that early of a game.
Huh.
That's absolutely crazy. Was not expecting something like that. But I remember playing this with my buddies, borrowing it from my friend Preston, playing through it. This, I can sit through and play through this, and I can breeze through it. It's not that it's easy, but I played it so many times that,
right.
I know exactly what to do and where to do it. So much fun. Again, Konami used to be badass. If I had to say like another honorable mention from Konami, from the system that's also a good side scroller beat 'em up, and that's Batman Returns. And I just bought that.
It's not too long ago. Yep.
But that game, I played the crap out of that one too. Because guess what? Movie tie-in.
So, this is kind of a late one. I don't know exactly the time. Look that up and see.
I just turned my phone on airplane mode to save my battery.
Too bad. Turn it back on.
I don't have my charger.
But
I want to listen to podcasts on my way home.
Plug it in.
Super Mario
All-Stars Plus Super Mario World. Now, Super Mario World came with the system, and it was amazing. I remember playing it all the time. And then they came out with, so this is like a 2-in-1 for me, Super Mario All-Stars. Added the lost levels. To me, it was a great pickup. I actually waited. Instead of buying Super Mario World on its own or Super Mario All-Stars, I waited to get this. And when was it released?
December 94.
94, that's what I was going to say. Cool. But yes, Super Mario World is actually the one that's on the list, but since I had the All-Star version. Amazing game.
Get off my bad kitty.
Your turn.
Super Mario World. My original copy with my name written on it by my mom. Way back when. Indeed, we even have a
dust cover
with my initials on it. So yeah, this came with my system, and now it is now at home. It is pretty dirty. I have not cleaned it because I didn't see a need to. I love the game. It came with the system, and I played the crap out of it.
It's one of the best games for the system.
It's not only one of the best games for the system, but I feel like it's one of the best Mario games, period.
Yes.
A lot of people might argue with me and say 3, and I will not say that you're wrong. 3 is probably my second favorite.
Yeah.
Close favorite. Or a close second for me. It is up there. I love 3, but World for me took everything that 3 did good.
Yep.
And just
made it better. I agree with that. So next one is, since we mentioned it, Star Fox.
Super FX chip.
This game was unreal. Now it did not become a big thing to me until Star Fox 64.
Okay.
And then I went back. So I played Star Fox 64 first. And then I didn't have a 64. I never owned one. I still to this day do not own one. That'll change soon. But I played it at Boys and Girls Club, surprise. And I went out and got the Super Nintendo version because I thought, oh, they got to be pretty close. They're not. But it's an amazing game. This game.
The 64 version is actually kind of like a remake of that in a way.
It is.
It's the 64, especially like
the control and how everything, the way it handled was a little different. But it's an amazing.
Star Fox is my next game with my name written on it. So, how I got this game? One year for Christmas. My grandma got me a game for the Sega CD.
That you didn't own?
Yeah, I didn't own. It was the year that I got everything Power Rangers. Everything I got was Power Rangers.
Did you really like the Power Rangers?
I did. So that summer I got the Red Ranger and the Green Ranger action figure. It was a little figure with like their heads like folded back. Their heads, and they had their unhelmeted version, and then you could say it's morphin' time, push down and their heads would flip up. But the problem is that even the girls, they all had like this big puffed out chest because they needed room for their heads to sit in.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So she got me the Sega CD game. My mom realized the mistake because she bought me a game for the Sega.
Right.
Well, Sega CD. I don't have a Sega CD. But what did I think? I'm getting a Sega CD.
Yeah.
So my mom's like, don't open that. So what do? I opened it. She was mad at me. My grandma bought it at a store called K's Merchandise. I don't know if they have that over here in Indiana.
I don't know.
I got a really bad eye itch.
Get your glaucoma.
Yeah. Well, it's after effect of the drops.
Yeah.
Right. So we had to take the game back to K's Merchandise, where they did not want to give us the money back because I opened it. So my mom begged, cajoled, threatened, whatever she could do to get, basically we couldn't get money back. We had to do an exchange.
Right.
So I was there was a bin, and they said, pick a game out of there, and that's what you can get. And I chose Star Fox. I had no idea what it was.
But you were glad you did.
Yes. I had no idea. I just thought the dude looked cool. I didn't know. And here I was thinking that you ran around as this dude. But no, you actually fly the ships.
Right.
And I'll never forget the opening with the emergency. Something fighters, prepare for launch. And just, in fact, the opening to our podcast has the good luck from this game. Yeah, this game is amazing. In fact, another story, this is how I got back into retro gaming. I told the story on the Mass Effect episode a while back that I sold all my stuff. I sold everything but my PS3 collection at the time, and then a few select games. So I didn't sell FF7, I didn't sell FF10, I didn't sell my Metal Gears, I didn't sell my Mass Effects. I didn't sell the games that really meant something to me, but everything else. And I sold my GameCube, my Wii, my 360, my DSi maybe, and I sold a bunch of stuff. And then that summer, I went back to my mom's. My mom is like, you need to clean out your closet. I'm like, Mom, I'm not Eminem. I don't need to clean out my closet. She goes, no, you got a bunch of stuff in here, and we need to clear it out. You need to figure out what you want to do with it. And granted, at this point, I had been out of the house. I moved out in 2007. This was in 2013. Jeez. I know. Hey, man, what are you going to say? I ain't got room for that shit. But in there, I found my Super Nintendo with this in here, just like that. How long it's been sitting there, I don't know. A long time. Think about it. I mean, was I playing my Super Nintendo in the early 2000s? No. So it's been sitting in there, just like that, just sitting in there. And I saw it and was, oh my gosh, yes. And I wanted to play it so bad. So I found the power cord, and I'm like, all right, somewhere I've got AV cords for this. I'm like, my knowledge, because I remember this stupid crap. The Super Nintendo Junior, the Nintendo 64, then the GameCube all have the same AV cord. Yes. They all have the same design. If you look on the back of it, and the AV out, it's the exact same plug-in. But on these, it's actually a module. You plug in a module that plugs that adapter for the original into it. No, it's the same one. I have it right in there. Well, there's a module for the RF. Yeah. But I didn't need RF because I just needed the AV cables. That's how my cube came, was with that. I actually have my original GameCube cables in there. So I knew I had an extra set of cables that I didn't sell because I sold my N64 to a friend at work, but I had two sets of cables for it, and I only sold him one. Right. I don't know why I didn't give him both, but I just remembered I kept one of them. So I went home. I didn't find a controller. I ended up buying a different controller. Right. And then I found my other controllers at my house. I had them. I don't know why I did, but without the system or any games. I just remember we were getting ready to go on a ghost hunt or something, and I was just hooking it up before I was waiting for Matt to get there or whatever, and I'm like trying to get this thing to work. It won't work. It won't work. It won't work. It won't work. All of a sudden, Jay was there. I remember Jay being there. He goes, "Wow, you found that?" And I loaded it up, and it loaded up. And he's like, "Whoa, those graphics!" And it was the intro to Star Fox with that little movie intro with the ship getting shot down. And I'm like, I just want to play this game. And then it was like the next day or something. And next day, it was over shutdown still. Went into town, went to Game Exchange, bought a controller, bought Maximum Carnage.
Yes.
A good side-scroller Spider-Man.
Yes, it is.
Great game. And then I played Star Fox, and I played Maximum Carnage. And that's when I decided I'm going to start collecting. At the time, though, it was just going to be Super Nintendo and PS1 because I found some of my PS1 stuff.
Right.
And that was it. And then that turned into my game room. And 816 games. So, yeah. Star Fox is an awesome game, but also kickstarted my collecting obsession.
Right. So we're going to go with this. I really want to find this game, and I found it a couple times, and I wasn't able to buy it. X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. That was one of those games that you'd sit down with your friend, and you'd play through it. And you never did very well. Never did I do very well.
The only X-Men game that I remember playing on the Super Nintendo, it was Spider-Man and the X-Men. And it wasn't a very good game. It was like a side-scroller. I just remember playing it like Wolverine, and you run around and you could just punch. And then you press another button for his claws to come out. So you can choose to punch with or without the claws.
This one is the one where you could be Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler.
And that's how I beat the levels, is I really didn't kill anything. I would just teleport back. Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a good game.
I'm starting to get to my nitty-gritty here.
Yeah, I've set mine aside.
Super Mario Kart.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got the box. I've told the story here, I think, on the podcast before about how I got this box and some other boxes. About we were leaving work and somebody left an N64 box. And we were like, what?
It was sitting on top.
On top of the...
trash.
Or of the recycle bin.
Yeah, and it had all these boxes and stuff in it.
It had this one. It had Zombies. It had Doom. It had WWF Raw. It had some NFL game.
Yeah.
It had Tiny Toons Buster Bust Loose.
Yeah.
And so it was like later on that summer that I found Super Mario Kart the game. Now this box isn't in the best condition. It's a little warped. Does it have a manual? No.
No manual.
No, but it has a couple inserts. It has like this. Now see, some people consider a game complete if it has this thing in here and this thing and then the manual for the game. For me, I really just want the manual. I don't need another copy of this crap. But it all just depends. Subscribe to Nintendo Power.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. It's really cool to see this stuff though. As much as I say I don't need this stuff, it is cool to see it. But the version that I bought of Mario Kart, because the box is the million seller, and I found the million seller cart.
Nice.
So it was just sort of like by chance. And this actually,
I was gonna say you didn't hunt specifically for the million.
No, I just saw it, and it was at our replay, and it had some Sharpie written on the front. So Andy, with an I, thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
I now own your copy of Super Mario Kart, and it is now complete with a box, although not with a manual. It's okay though. Mario Kart was cool because I didn't really play a whole lot of racing games on like the Super Nintendo or anything like that. But this is one that me and some friends played the crap out of, and it was just a lot of fun the way that they did the sort of 3D look to it.
Yeah.
But how
this is the one that you could do the multi-tap on?
No, this one's only 2-player.
This is only 2-player.
But you can do the battle mode.
Yep.
Because the game played with a half screen. Yep. Because the map was underneath it. Some people might not like that, but it never bothered me much. Mm-hmm. Until I played it like a year or two ago, and I went, oh yeah, I forgot.
Sucks.
Kind of sucks with that. But you know what? It has a lot of charm to it.
Yet again, that's another one that I started out on 64.
64, and then
went back because I didn't own a 64. So the only way that I could play these games is I got them a Super. So
then you played them at the Boys and Girls Club, and then you would try to, okay, sure.
So mine is Tetris Attack. Now this game, my mother bought because she loves Tetris.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we found out it had the battle mode in it, where you could play this Tetris game, which it wasn't really Tetris. It was more like Bejeweled. So we started playing it, and I thought, man, this is actually pretty fun. I like this. And then I became obsessed with it for about 6 months. And every day, I would play it every day. I've never beat this game fully with one life, from beginning to end, with one life.
Does anybody ever truly beat Tetris, though?
Well, this does have a story mode to it. So you go from... it does. It has a story. And you go through it, you get to Bowser, and you got to beat Bowser. And I never beat Bowser on the hardest difficulty because you beat the game on hard, and it would say, okay, here's your code. There is a extreme mode or whatever mode it was called. So I would go through, and I wasn't satisfied. If I lost to Bowser, I wasn't satisfied. So I had to start all over again. Yeah.
I'm just so tickled with puzzle games with story.
It's funny. It is funny.
Like, it always just makes me giggle.
I enjoyed it.
Like when we were testing out Bomberman.
Yes.
For the Switch.
Yes. Bomberman with a story. Woo.
Mega Man X is my next game. And I really liked Mega Man. Playing that before I got a Super. I liked Mega Man on the NES. And this is a game that I rented, but never owned. I rented it, and I thought it was...
I think the same thing for me, too.
And it was amazing. I actually got this copy from Nate from Journey to Comics. He got this for Christmas. Got me this for Christmas one year.
That's awesome.
He got me this, and he got me, like, a copy of Symphony of the Night, Castlevania, PS1. Just the disc. He ordered both of them from eBay, and it turns out the Castlevania was only just the disc.
That sucks.
Yeah, it is, but hey, what'd it do? I didn't pay for it.
Yeah, you can't argue that.
But Mega Man X. Now, I'm not I don't have the cash flow to buy Mega Man X 2 or 3. And probably will never have the cash flow to do that, because as much as it would be cool if I ever came across it at a yard sale, I'm like gonna swipe it up.
Yeah.
But going to a store paying $125, $200 for the other ones, no. Yeah. Mega Man X is still pretty affordable. I think it's around $20, $30 something dollars.
I don't know.
But I love this because it takes the Mega Man formula and it brings it to the Super Nintendo. It is a different series from the regular Mega Man series, because I want to say, was it 7 is on the Super Nintendo, and then 8 is on PlayStation and Saturn? We've had this conversation.
We had this conversation before.
Yeah. But Mega Man X is it's the start of a whole new series.
Yes.
And then there was like 8 Mega Man X games.
And it were Bass and somebody else was introduced.
And then, but you could go through the levels and you can get upgrades.
Yeah.
That were hidden. And so there's some replayability. Soundtrack is amazing for this. Yeah. It's just an awesome game. I absolutely love it.
Super R-Type is my next one. This is actually one of the first games I bought for the system. I bought it together. And yeah, I love this game.
Are you talking about originally or when you started collecting?
Originally.
Okay.
I played the original R-Type on the Game Boy, I believe, or R-Type 2. There was an R-Type for the original Game Boy.
I don't remember, and I'm not going to sacrifice more battery life to look it up, because I need to listen to podcasts on the way home, because I got to drive. Well, I mean, you've got your phone on you.
I know, but I don't want to look to hear you look it up while I talk. How about that?
Weird iPhones.
It's the same as yours. It's got Chrome. Anyways, but this game is really cool because you start out from the beginning, and it's one of those games that you want to start out in the beginning. and work your way up because you get power-ups. And
it's just called R-Type.
It's just called R-Type. And
I mean, there might have been another one, but...
Right. All right.
Oh, I clicked on something.
What did you click on?
A link.
Oh, a link. Yes, R-Type. But 1991. It was a blast. So I beat this one. It's really hard in some sections.
Mm-hmm. R-Type is really cool.
It's a very fun game. It's a side-scroller ship game.
Mm-hmm.
And you just progress through the level and try not to hit anything. Shoot 'em up.
Getting to the nitty-gritty of mine.
I am to the nitty-gritty on mine.
Final Fantasy 2. Now, did I cheat and put like some Square games in here? More than one? More than two? More than three? Maybe. As I said, if you'd have asked me like when I was a kid, I probably would have put Home Alone. I probably would have put Batman Returns. I still would have put Turtles and stuff like that. But this game is freaking amazing on more than one console. I played in beta on the Super. That's the only one I think I've actually... Because, DS is hard. The DS remake of that is hard.
Yes.
Super hard. I actually didn't end up beating it.
Yes, you have to grind for like 10 hours to beat the first boss.
Anyway, this is Final Fantasy 4. And I own every single copy of this.
Right.
This is slowly, over time, become one of my favorite Final Fantasies. Like, besides my top. And,
right.
And you know what? Some people put 6 as their favorite. Some people put 7. Some people put 10 because these are the big jump-on points. And then 4 is almost like a smaller jump-on point because it was the first one for the Super Nintendo that got released. And I just feel like the story speaks to me more in this than it does in 3. I feel like 3 looks better. It has a better presentation of story.
Right.
But Final Fantasy 2's story is a little bit more simple. It's not as dark.
Right.
I mean, it does get a little dark, but 3 is dark almost the whole period. So, 2, man, I really like Cecil's redemption story. Of course, he's the Dark Knight and becomes the paladin, and then the whole thing with his brother and all that stuff. That's just really cool stuff. Whole going to space, going to the fake moon, the Lunarians. That's really fun.
Yeah, haven't got that far in that. Spoilers. And I know this has to be one of your top games. Link to the Past. I got this with my original Super Nintendo. This is the game that my parents bought me. And it changed gaming for me. This became my obsession.
Did this game change your...
Yeah, this one?
Yeah. It's also on my list as well. As I said, I first played it when the Huff Bowers came over and introduced me to the game. And honestly, this is the first Zelda game I ever played. I didn't play them on the NES.
Same here.
So it was the first one. And for me, this is my absolute favorite Zelda game. Like...
I can't agree with you on that. I think it's to me what really started the series, not one.
Well, I said it was my favorite. I didn't say it was the best.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, this is my favorite Zelda game. I mean, every other Zelda game I play, even though...
I feel like this one is tied with Twilight Princess for me.
Okay. I mean, I like other Zelda games. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like this just hit every aspect right, and it's my favorite one.
Oh yeah, it did. Yeah, it's an experience. It's just you play it. Not a big super story with it. I mean, it didn't really.
It's simple. It's pretty simple. Now, okay. So when I was a kid, I played that first, and then when I was a little older, I played NES Zelda. On first, I got the Zelda compilation disc, the special edition compilation disc for the GameCube. That came with Zelda 1, 2, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask, and then the demo for Wind Waker. That's on the GameCube. It was a pack-in game. That's why it's expensive as
I was
crap.
getting ready to say that's expensive as crap.
I have a whole story on that I'll talk about on the GameCube retrospective that we do whenever we do that.
Yeah, when.
But that's when I first played the original 2. Discovered I didn't like Zelda 2 at all because it's a side scroller one.
It's different.
It is, yeah.
It's different.
That's definitely a way to put it. But I discovered I didn't like that one. The first one, I get what they were doing because they perfected it with this.
Right.
They definitely perfected what they were trying to do with Zelda 1 with A Link to the Past.
Yes.
But it was in 2015, over shutdown year that year. That was the first time I ever beat Zelda 1. And
I can understand that.
And I beat it.
It's long.
It's long, and it doesn't tell you outright what to do. It doesn't give you that many clues.
Those old NES games, they really they drug out a lot of levels. Like, it was really long. You'd have to do multiple screens because in that time the screen didn't scroll together.
Yeah, well, and also there wasn't a big map. You also kind of had to draw your own map or just remember where stuff was.
Like the original Metroid, you had to. You'd go up through a tower, and you would go like 7 or 8 screens to the tower before you got to the next door, and you're just like, I'm sick and tired of seeing this.
Yeah. But for me, going back, Link to the Past, every subsequent Zelda game that I play, it does get compared to this.
Yes.
Even though the 3D games are separate, like they're different beasts, okay? And it's not fair to compare Breath of the Wild to A Link to the Past. They're completely different games.
Right.
Completely different style of games. But therefore, that being said, I still feel like Link to the Past is probably my favorite Zelda, and in my opinion, probably the best effort that they've done. That's not saying that they didn't get close with Ocarina, or close with Twilight, or close with Breath, or even Wind Waker, like in its own right.
Wind Waker's good, yeah.
But I think there's just a certain level of perfection that they achieved. And this game is probably, Link to the Past is probably my most beaten game of all time. You would kind of think that would be FF7. And it's up there. I beat FF7 a lot. But
Me too.
This is high up.
I have definitely played that a lot. I would say that's in my top 5.
I actually beat this. Okay, so I beat it on the Super Nintendo a squillion times. And then I got it on ROM.
ROM, yeah.
And I beat it there on the computer using keyboard. Yeah. And then I got it on the Wii Retro or Virtual Console. Beat it there. And then I had a smartphone that was an Evo Shift. Basically, it was a touchscreen, but if you turned it on its side and shifted up, I had a whole keyboard.
Right.
And this emulator I had on my phone, you could do the keyboard inputs. So I literally played the whole game with a backwards controller set.
Right.
With the arrows over here and the buttons over here. So I played the whole game like Southpaw and beat it that way.
That's pretty talent. That's the talent.
I played that at work during breaks.
I remember that.
And then I've beat it again since I bought this copy of the game that I got.
Oh, the guy's name.
Number one, of course you can name your Link when you start, and one of the guys' names was Pablo, and then that just made me giggle because like, help me, Pablo, help me. But then the other one was capital D period nice. D nice.
D nice.
Also, I don't know if you've been noticing. Of course, if you're listening to the podcast, you don't know. But people watching, I've been scratching my nose a lot.
Me too.
You have been,
yeah.
or like you've been scratching your nose too, or you've been noticing?
I've been scratching doing this a lot.
I don't know. Like, I was doing it at work today too. I don't know if it's just like the air is dry or whatever. But
spring started.
Well, like normally, like when it's pretty dry in the air, my nose will just get super itchy. So, apologies to all those watching on YouTube.
So my number one.
I wonder what this one is.
Yeah, this one's a surprise. Super Metroid.
You still have the price tag on the back.
I do. How
dare you?
I know. There's certain ones I haven't taken a while. You know what? Whoever was at Disc Replay before, they thought it'd be a great idea to put the sticker on the sticker. Not this one.
You mean on like the label?
On the label.
Oh, fuck them.
I've got multiple games that's that way, and I refuse to take it off and rip them.
You can get them off if you have... if you're careful and you have the Goo Gone.
I got Goo Gone.
I've done it because I've had them too. Thankfully,
See, this actually had one on the sticker here, right there.
Thankfully, a lot of the guys that work at ours, if they're gonna put them on the label, they put them on there with the little the
Sticky tape, sticky notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys are pretty good. A lot of those are collectors. A couple of the guys are big toy collectors. But this game is one of my top games of all time. I've played this game through and through. I know almost every ounce of this game, and I can run through it basically with my eyes closed, and I don't even have to collect any of the things that you don't have to collect and beat the game easily. It is an amazing. To me, this was. I mean, the story's kind of like Zelda. It's very vague, very simple, but man, it just.
Okay.
I love this style, the Metroidvania style.
There's a reason why that game didn't make my list. And it's because when I started compiling my list filled up fast.
Yes.
And could I have bumped one of the FFs off and put it on there? Yes. But it's like I also had 2 other games that were in contention there that also didn't make this list. Soul Blazer and Illusion of Gaia. I love those games.
I have Illusion of Gaia myself.
You know, and they didn't make the list. And I'm like, if they're not making the list, Metroid's not making the list. I like Super Metroid. I think what that game does better than a lot of the games even on my list, atmosphere.
Yes.
Atmosphere, they do that so good on there. I think the one game that is in my list that can like compete with that game for atmosphere is FF3. And it's the mixture of tone, it's the mixture of music, and it's just you get sucked into it.
You are, yeah, definitely sucked into it.
But unfortunately, with the games I was looking at, I'm like, I got to put Super Mario Kart in there because
you knew I was getting this.
Right. Well,
you knew from the beginning.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And you knew I was putting this on here.
Yep. Dun, dun, dun. Chrono Trigger.
Chrono Trigger. Again, this is actually, and I made sure to do this one last because it is probably my favorite game on the system. Why? Did I play this game on the system? No. Did I beat it on the system? No. Have I beat it elsewhere? Yeah.
How many times?
A lot.
A lot.
This game, within the last 10 years, has become my number 2 favorite game of all time. Arguably number 1, depending on what day. Because there are days where I'm actually being pretty negative towards FF7, where I'm like being more critical of it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I think Chrono Trigger did certain things better. With its limitations. And it's just like, I feel like the game, I think Chrono survived the times better. Let's put it that, like FF7 was created pretty early on in the 3D era.
Right.
So its visuals suffer. Its translation suffers.
Yeah.
Translation's terrible in that game.
Horrible.
Chrono was made during the latter part of the 2D era. It's up there with FF3 as far as visuals, and it has really good soundtrack, partially done by Nobuo Uematsu. And then there was another guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was doing it first, and then he fell ill, and then...
Does it say?
I don't think it says on the back.
Let's see.
But he fell ill, and then Nobuo finished it. So there are certain tracks in there that Nobuo did do. Now, this is a Square game, and it was one of the first... It was the first game that people from Square and Enix came together to work on.
Yes.
Before they were Square Enix. Yep. It was published through Squaresoft, though. And I did get... Hold on, I'm not ready to open it yet. I do have the complete boxed version. And
the actual complete.
I was... All right, so a little history about this. I don't know if I've shared this in the podcast. This got released in 95, and of course I wasn't into RPGs at the time. But then it was 2010, 2011, 2010, somewhere around there. I got Chrono Trigger on the DS. Now, I had it on PS1, but the load times were atrocious, and I liked it, but I got so far, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm playing something else. Got on the DS. Played through it on the DS. I'm like, so when I started collecting games, I'm like, I need to get Chrono Trigger on the Super Nintendo because I love the game so much that I needed to get the original.
Right.
Even if I never played it, even if I like glanced at it, even if I played it every once in a while, because the DS is a damn good version of that game to get. Well, number one, it's portable. Number two, you can either do the classic control mode or the DS control mode where all your UE is on the bottom and much cleaner.
Right.
So while it's perfectly fine in here, it looks a lot better and easier to navigate on the DS. Now, otherwise the game is exactly the same.
Right.
They might have cleaned up some of the visuals and some of the
not much
animated FMVs from the PS1 version is in the DS.
Right.
So they added some stuff, but it is the same game. It has like 13 endings. The main game is only like 20 hours, 25 hours long. So like it's not a really hard game to start doing New Game Plus with. And this is one of the first games that did New Game Plus properly, where you just started up with all the stuff you already had. And then you could go beat the game within the first 13 minutes of the game.
Huh.
And that's one of the endings.
I don't remember that.
No, I haven't done it, but I know it's one of them. So this copy right here, I went to a store not too far from where I live, and it's a store that I do not frequent hardly nearly enough because he gave me a good deal on this. I saw this in the case, in the box. And I'm like, oh man, how much is that? I only had $50 to spend that day, and my wife was like, "Ask him." I'm like, "No, I'm not even going to open that can of worms."
Yeah.
So I went home, and I bought other games that day. I did buy a game from him. Actually, he gave me that game for free. That was one of the God of Wars, God of War 2.
Right.
He looked at the disc, saw it was super scratched. He apologized, shined it up, and he goes, "Here, it's for free. If it messes up, come and get another copy." I said, "Gotcha." And then I was talking to my wife, and my birthday was coming up. And this was a year after I'd kind of started collecting. This was in 2014 that I got this. It was a summer. It was August because it was my early birthday present. And I was talking to her about it. And she goes, "I'll go down there and I'll get it." And I'm like, I kind of want to be there. Because the box is in kind of some rough shape. It's a used box.
Yes.
You know, I'm like, which is fine. It doesn't need to be pristine. Some collectors want them to be absolutely pristine. I respect that. I'm not. I like the little bit of wear because it means somebody enjoyed this.
Right.
You know, it was on somebody's shelf, and somebody enjoyed this. But I'm like, the cart has to be pristine. It has to be good. I'm pretty picky about that. There'll be times where, you know, you said you bought my RPG, and
since then, I've never seen it.
You never seen it again
in person.
There are times where I've passed up certain like copies of games that like FF3 multiple times because it just didn't have the cart quality like that I wanted.
This is a good copy here,
but for this it needed to be good. And I'm like, here's the thing, Kate. He gave me God of War 2 for free. It's not an expensive game. I was gonna pay like $2 or $3 more than what Replay had it.
Right.
But that's not the point. It's like I'm going to somebody else's store, and I'm gonna go there and I look at prices and I see how much is it over at Replay, how much is it in other places, and is it worth it? I was gonna buy God of War 2 from him because I wanted to start up a relationship.
Right.
And then he started up a relationship by giving me that for free.
Right.
I'm like, because he gave me that game for free and he's cool, I'm going to pay what Chrono Trigger's worth. And it was like $300 for a complete box copy. I said I might not be able to do that. I want to do it. But if I'm going to pay $300, I want that cart to be absolutely pristine.
Right.
So she said, okay. And then I went to work. No, I went to sleep. And she went down there. And she bought it.
Yeah.
I woke up and she goes, "Hey, got a surprise for you." She goes, "It's in the game room." Walk in there and I about flipped out. I'm like, "You didn't." She goes, "Yeah." She goes, and it looks good too. I open it up and I'm like, "How much?" She goes, $80.
And you about hit the floor.
Oh my gosh, dude. He said he had it in his system for 100, but he could do 80. I had told her how much it was worth, how much it was going for online, okay? And she said, absolutely. I've got the manual. It's got a little bit of a corner.
A little waterlog on the back. Just a little bit. Or it's starting to wrinkle.
I don't know if that's water or if that's just from where it sits. But mostly good there. I've got the poster.
The original poster.
I've got another poster. I've got the crappy
Nintendo thing with the receipt.
$85.55.
And what is this one here? What is this one? Oh, the...
I don't know. That's upcoming games.
It looks like it's a poster. It is.
What the hell is it?
What game is it? Let's hold it up here for the camera.
Bulletproof software.
Oh.
The best games in the world.
Huh.
And on the back, it is some games. It is the Twisted Tales of Spike McFang, Killer Garlic, Spinning Capes, and Cellular Phone Wielding Vampire.
Wow.
We have Yoshi's Cookie, and we have Obidus. Obidus plunge you into the 20th century, from the 20th century, into a medieval land of knights, wizards, and monsters.
It looks like a... Interesting.
But yeah, August 16th, 2014. He has the date here. And then 79.
Is that 79.50?
79.56. No, 75.95. Plus $5.60.
Right.
Cents for tax. But yeah, my cart...
It's perfect.
It's about as perfect as you're going to get. It's got... You look at it in a certain light, it looks like there might be a spot of something on there. But it looks freaking good. And this game is is my number 2 favorite game of all time. So therefore, almost by proxy, it's my number 1 SNES game of all time.
Just like my Super Metroid.
It's like... We've talked about our top 10 games before on this show. And A Link to the Past is like my number 5. So obviously, I put that as second to last.
Right.
And even though I was not ranking these as I put them out, I saved those 2 specifically for last.
That's what I do with mine. Because these are... I could say Mario RPGs, it's up there, and same with Zombies.
Same.
Zombies is just for the fact of how much time I invested in it, and fond memories of...
Like FF2 and FF3 are games that I've enjoyed later on past the life of the system that were originally on this system.
Right.
But when I'm talking about Star Fox, Mega Man, Mario RPG, those games are games I played back then. Same with, actually all the games besides the Final Fantasies are games that I played back then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every single one besides the 3 Square games. So, yeah, dude, those are... Oh, I didn't put that back in the box.
Yeah, I thought you was holding it for display. I don't know.
No, I'm putting everything back in here very carefully. Trying not to hurt nothing. I don't want to hurt nothing in here.
No.
I know. But yeah, I have actually played this on the system too. I haven't beat it, but I did start it up and play it, and it's a whole other feeling. It's the same game, but man, to play it on the original system that it was designed for, that it was intended for, it's a good feeling.
You want help?
No, I get it.
It doesn't look like it.
I'm getting it. I got it.
No, still don't have it. Oh, maybe. Yep, there it all went.
I told you I was going to get it. That's all I got.
That's all I got too. Other than some other honorable mentions.
The system, I think they officially took it off the market in the States in like 99. Because by then the N64 had been out for like 3 years.
Right.
Because the Junior wasn't on the market for very long. I did read on Wikipedia that I think in Japan they had it on sale until 2003. So over there, of course, Super Famicom, which we'd never even mentioned that it was called the Super Famicom over there, but most people probably already know that.
Oh, by the way, it's called Super Famicom.
Yeah. The main design was different.
Right. It was the same system.
Yeah, it was the exact same system. Yeah, but and also Europe got the Famicom design, but it's still called Super Nintendo. And our replays had a Super Famicom once.
It did.
It did.
I remember seeing it, and I remember just staring at it like, that's awesome. But
it's really cool because it looks like something completely foreign because it's not the one we got.
Right.
I think that's all I got, dude.
That's all I got.
A lot of fond memories with the Super Nintendo, and again, it's one of my 3 top tiers in my history of gaming that hold up that definitely hold up. And while in my collection it may not be the biggest, I have most of, if not all of, the major games.
Yeah.
That I want for it.
I'm missing a few, obviously.
I need Street Fighter 2. I have the, you know what? On the Genesis, I do have the Champion Edition. The Champion Edition is the arcade port of the one that I played. Mm-hmm. And so on the Genesis, I have that one, which means I've been slow on to pick up the one I had because I don't really care to have Turbo if I have the Champion Edition, but I want to have the game that I had when I was growing up.
Right.
Which I actually kept that box at home for the longest time. And then it's like, usually I just threw my boxes away when I was a kid. Most kids did.
Yeah.
But like that box, for some reason, I liked the box and I kept it around. And then I finally did something with it. Who knows? That would require a deep search of I had 2 rooms at my mom's house. I had my original room and I went to a bigger room.
Right.
And there's so much stuff in that middle room. It's like a storage room. So much stuff that isn't mine that I guarantee you that I could probably find some stuff in there that used to be mine, or
probably,
and it might be in there still, but I don't remember ever throwing that away. Anyway, I think it's time to wrap this up.
It is.
I'm getting tired.
Yeah, it's time for me to play Zelda.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah,
because Andromeda comes out. Or wait, no, it already is out. I need to play Zelda.
By the time you're hearing this episode, Andromeda is already out. We are actually filming this the day before Andromeda drops because I'm wearing as an Easter egg a shirt that I couldn't find. So, we are pre-recording a couple of these retrospective episodes to have down the pipeline so I can take a break because that means you guys don't miss out. You know what? Staring at this Mario Kart box, I didn't realize they had one of their little blocks. I miss where they had the blocks on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand why they couldn't do that, couldn't have them floating there.
Right.
But man, playing Mario Kart 8, and you got to try and time it up and hit it. I miss just running over them. I know. Little things. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you for checking out this podcast, downloading it, watching it on YouTube, however you decide to digest it. You're why we do this. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for checking out this episode and checking out all our future ones. We are, of course, available on audio on podcast services around the globe like iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music. We're on video on YouTube. You can follow us on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Facebook?
Almost went into Vampiro there, didn't I?
Yeah.
Well, I'm over there on the internets, on Facebook. Well, we are on all those at Game Addicts Play. You can just type into Game Addicts Play on Facebook. You'll get us Game Addicts Play on Twitter. When you subscribe to us on there, you'll know when we put a new episode up because I always post stuff in relevance to the new episode that is up.
I will be now because
you back online.
I'm back online.
Indeed, Rooney. So yes, please go check us out on there, and you can always stay in touch with us. You can message us if you want and ask us questions, and we will gladly answer them here on the show, which we do every single week, except for when we do extra ones like we're doing right now on this episode. Right. We're going to be doing a few other retrospective episodes that you're going to hear in the coming weeks. Me and Nate are going to do the Xbox 360. Me and Rob, hopefully we can get together. I need to talk to him and get together. We're going to do the PS2. And then I think The next time that you and I do a retrospective, it's going to be on The Legend of Zelda. Just on that game. Or series.
Series. I was going to say, just on The Legend of Zelda?
No,
I better
like,
get to playing.
No, like, we're just going to sit back and we're going to talk about the history of the series and have, you know, I think I have all the games except for, like the DS games.
Right.
But, yeah.
See, I have almost every one of them, but the original and two of the Game Boy, the Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages, and Spirit Tracks. Everything else I own.
So, yeah, because you bought Phantom Hourglass, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, guys, until then, or until when the next time you see us, next week, if that is the case, I'm your host, Brando.
And I am Player 2 Mike.
And we will see you then.